The sky has always been the final bottleneck. When disasters strike, wars erupt, and entire nations need relief in hours, not days, only two machines can answer the call. One was born in the Cold War, a giant of American steel that could carry tanks across oceans, the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy. The other rose out of Europe decades later, and a turboprop Challenger was built to land where no jet ever could, the Airbus A400M Atlas. Both promise heavy lift and reach, but only one can claim to deliver at the very edge of the battlefield. So the question isn't just which aircraft is bigger, it's which one the world really needs. Every aircraft carries the DNA of its era. For the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy, that DNA was born during the Cold War. In the mid-1960s, the United States military faced a dilemma. Vietnam had exposed the limits of its airlift fleet. The Pentagon asked for an aircraft that could move outsized cargo across oceans without stopping. Lockheed's high-wing, T-tail design won. In 1968, the first C-5A rolled out. It was the world's largest aircraft, capable of swallowing tanks whole. But it came at a cost. Program ballooned in expense and faced technical issues that drew congressional scrutiny. Despite the headaches, the Galaxy proved indispensable, moving equipment divisions across continents where no other aircraft could. On the flip side, Europe had its own vision. In the 1980s, nations including France, Germany, and the UK sought independence from American heavy lifters. Their armies still relied on the aging C-130 Hercules and Franco-German C-160 Transals. The solution was a collaborative project called the A400M. From the start, it was a political minefield. The Europeans pressed ahead, but disagreements over engines, costs, and specifications dragged the project into decades of delays. By the early 2000s, the A400M was billions over budget and years behind schedule. Some even predicted cancellation. Then in December 2009, the A400M finally took to the skies. Sleek, powerful, and ambitious, it was Europe's answer to the question of airlift independence. Where the C-5 had been forged in Cold War urgency, the A400M was shaped by politics and a desire to no longer depend on Washington. Both have two origins and were born on two continents. One is shaped by raw military necessity, the other by a vision of sovereignty. What do you think? Was the C-5's Cold War urgency the better path? Or did Europe's slower negotiated approach build something more sustainable? Drop your thoughts below. Regarding design, the two aircraft could not be more different. The Lockheed C-5 Galaxy is a brute force solution. It is 75 meters long, nearly 20 meters tall, and capable of swallowing 127 tons of cargo in a single load. Its four turbofan engines deliver the thrust to leap continents, while the unique landing gear can kneel, lowering the fuselage so vehicles can roll straight in through its nose and tail doors. It was engineered for scale, nothing less. But the A400M answers a different question. It doesn't try to outmatch the C-5 in size. Instead, it blends tactical flexibility with strategic reach. Its 4 Europrop TP400D6 turboprops, the most powerful turboprops ever built in the West, drive 8-bladed composite propellers that cut through the air with near-jet efficiency. This design gives the Atlas a cruise speed close to Mach 0.72, while still allowing it to land on short, unpaved runways that the C-5 could never touch. Inside, the A400M carries up to 37 tons of payload. It is smaller, yes, but sized for missions that demand agility. It can haul armored vehicles, helicopters, or troops straight to the front line rather than being restricted to major bases with long, reinforced runways. In raw numbers, the Galaxy dominates, but in versatility, the Atlas pushes the boundaries. And that raises the question, in today's conflicts, which matters more, the ability to carry more or the ability to go further into places others can't? If you are into modern aviation secrets, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Airlifters prove their worth not in test flights or spec sheets, but in the moments when history demands them. For the C-5 Galaxy, that moment came in 1990 during Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Though it made up only 12% of the U.S. Air Force's airlift fleet, it carried a staggering 44% of the cargo. Tanks, helicopters, and entire missile systems flowed into Saudi Arabia aboard Galaxies, turning the tide of logistics in a war fought half a world away. The size of the C-5 made it irreplaceable, and no other aircraft could have done it at the scale and speed required. Since then, the C-5 has been the backbone of American strategic mobility, supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War, providing humanitarian relief in Haiti, and rushing aid during the Ebola crisis in Africa. The Galaxy's message has always been the same. When the U.S. moves, it moves big. The proving grounds for the Airbus A400M came later. Its first operational mission was in 2013 when the French Air Force flew one into Mali during Operation Serval. Since then, it has become Europe's flexible workhorse, delivering troops to Afghanistan, evacuating civilians from Kabul in 2021, and dropping humanitarian aid after disasters like Hurricane Irma and the 2023 Morocco earthquake. The Atlas has shown its unique advantage, getting into places the C-5 simply can't. It can land on short dirt strips in combat zones, airdrop supplies at low altitude, and refuel helicopters in mid-air missions where payload is less critical than reach and adaptability. If you had to choose which capability feels more vital today, the ability to deliver a mountain of equipment in one go, or the ability to bring smaller loads straight to the front line? On paper, the numbers tell a story of extremes. The C-5 Galaxy is a monster, 75.3 meters long, nearly 20 meters tall, with a wingspan stretching over 67 meters. Park it next to the Airbus A400M, and the difference is staggering. The Atlas measures just 45 meters long, with a wingspan of 42 meters and a height of 14.7 meters. By size alone, the C-5 is in another league entirely. Payload capacity seals the gap even wider. The C-5 can carry 127 tons of cargo, surpassing the A400M's 37-ton maximum. That means the Galaxy can lift entire Abrams tanks or a Patriot missile battery. The A400M, meanwhile, is built for lighter armored vehicles, helicopters, or mixed loads of troops and supplies. But numbers aren't everything. Range matters too. Modern upgrades allow the C-5M Super Galaxy to fly over 8,000 kilometers unrefueled, even carrying heavy payloads. The A400M, while smaller, can still push 6,400 kilometers with a 20-ton load, enough to cross continents but not oceans. So what does this mean in practice? The C-5 is a global mover. It can connect Washington to combat zones in the Middle East or Asia without stopping. The A400M is more of a regional bridge, linking Europe to Africa or Asia, or carrying payloads from forward bases directly to combat zones. And while the Galaxy requires reinforced runways to operate, the A400M thrives where infrastructure is broken. It can land on grass, gravel, or dirt. It can airdrop supplies from 150 feet or refuel helicopters at altitude. The Galaxy wins the heavyweight on size and tonnage, but the Atlas claims the crown in versatility. And in modern warfare, both roles matter more than ever. If you were in charge of planning a mission, would you rather have one giant aircraft that can move everything at once, or several smaller aircraft that can slip into tougher airfields? When an aircraft is expected to serve for half a century, technology isn't optional, it's survival. The Lockheed C-5 Galaxy entered service in 1970. By the 1990s, it showed its age. Maintenance costs soared, reliability dipped, and availability suffered. The solution was a sweeping modernization program that transformed the fleet into the C-5M Super Galaxy. The upgrades were radical. New General Electric CF6 engines replaced the original TF39s, increasing thrust by 22% and reducing fuel burn. Avionics were modernized with digital displays, GPS navigation, and updated defense systems. Structural reinforcements extended service life into the 2040s. Departure reliability rates jumped above 90%, ensuring the Galaxy could deliver mission after mission. The results spoke for themselves. In test flights over Dover Air Force Base, the C-5M shattered 43 world aviation records, proof that an old design, reborn, could still dominate the skies. By contrast, the Airbus A400M didn't need retrofits. It was born with 21st century tech. Its cockpit is pure Airbus DNA, glass panels, side stick controllers, and fly-by-wire protections, a far cry from the analog gauges of older transports. Defensive aids include missile warning sensors, infrared countermeasures, and armored cockpits designed for low-level penetration in hostile zones. Its engines are equally ambitious. The Europrop TP400D6 turboprop, the most powerful turboprop in Western service, drives 8-blade Scimitar propellers that counter-rotate for improved lift and reduced torque. The result is a turboprop aircraft that cruises at near-jet speeds while retaining the ability to operate from short, soft runways. The A400M's innovations aren't just about performance. Survivability was a core requirement. So while the C-5 represents brute power made reliable through decades of upgrades, the A400M represents adaptability designed in from day one. Which of these impresses you more? Taking a 50-year-old design and making it world-class again? Or building a new aircraft from scratch with cutting-edge systems? Airlifters don't just move cargo, they move influence, and in global reach, the C-5 Galaxy and the Airbus A400M play very different games. The United States Air Force operates fewer than 60 C-5s, yet their presence is felt on every continent. From the Yom Kippur War in the Gulf, from Afghanistan to Ukraine, the C-5 has been the silent backbone of U.S. foreign policy. A single aircraft can deliver battle tanks, missile batteries, or helicopters across oceans without refueling, landing on fortified bases that turn into hubs of power protection. The C-5's role is unglamorous but decisive. When America intervenes, the Galaxy ensures the heavy gear arrives first. Without it, the U.S. would struggle to deploy at scale, a reminder that logistics, not firepower, wins campaigns. Beyond war, the Galaxy has delivered aid where natural disasters overwhelm nations. Its cavernous hold can fly in relief camps, medical units, and generators, reinforcing America's image as the world's rapid responder. By contrast, the A400M is not one nation's strategic monopoly. It is Europe's collective lifeline. The Alice is the centerpiece of multinational operations, with over 130 delivered across France, Germany, Spain, the UK, Turkey, and Malaysia. Its missions reflect Europe's military philosophy: smaller payloads, faster response, flexible roles. The Atlas has evacuated thousands during the Kabul airlift, delivered helicopters and supplies during Hurricane Irma, and flown paratroopers into NATO drills on short grass strips. Can switch roles in hours between troop transport, tanker, and medevac, making it the Swiss Army knife of modern airlift. Where the C-5 shuttles strategic loads between continents, the A400M inserts forces directly into contested environments. It may not carry tanks in bulk, but it delivers agility where large aircraft would be grounded. In global terms, the C-5 projects a single nation's dominance, while the A400M reflects multinational burden sharing. One is about overwhelming presence, and the other is about flexible cooperation. Every great aircraft carries shadows in its story, and the C-5 Galaxy and the Airbus A400M are no exceptions. The Galaxy was born in the 1960s amid Cold War urgency, but Lockheed's winning design nearly bankrupted the company. The program suffered delays, weight problems, and runaway costs that triggered congressional investigations. The C-5A was plagued by cracked wings and engine issues, forcing redesigns and expensive fixes. For years, critics branded it a flying albatross, too costly to maintain and too unreliable to count on. Yet, time turned criticism into grudging respect. Upgrades transformed the C-5 into the Super Galaxy, giving it 20% more payload, extended range, and reliability. But the scars remain. The aircraft is one of the most expensive to operate in U.S. service, demanding huge investments to keep flying. The A400M's troubles were different, but just as fierce. Born from European cooperation, the program was undermined by politics. Member states disagreed over specifications, funding ballooned by billions, and the project fell years behind schedule. Its new turboprop engines, the most powerful ever built in the West, caused gearbox failures and forced repeated redesigns. By 2009, the project was so over budget that Airbus publicly admitted it could collapse without more government support. Even after deliveries began in 2013, the problems didn't stop. A fatal test flight crash in Seville in 2015 cast a shadow over the program, and missing capabilities like helicopter refueling forced customers to buy American C-130Js as a stopgap. France, Germany, and the UK vented frustration as costs soared and promised features slipped years into the future. But like the Galaxy, the Alice clawed its way back. Upgrades restored confidence, operators praised its versatility, and Airbus began proving it could deliver on its promises. Still, the A400M is remembered as much for the politics and delays as for its performance. The controversy about the C-5 was its cost. For the A400M, it was its credibility. Both aircraft reminded us that engineering marvels are forged at factories, boardrooms, parliaments, and budget hearings. Aircraft this big don't just fade away. They evolve, or they become obsolete. The next decade will decide whether the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy and the Airbus A400M Atlas remain lifelines of global power or relics of a passing era. The U.S. Air Force plans to keep the C-5M Super Galaxy in service into the 2040s. Modern engines and avionics have boosted reliability above 90%, but high costs and reliance on major bases remain its Achilles heel. In a world of hypersonic threats, critics question how long such giants can survive. The A400M, meanwhile, has matured into Europe's workhorse. With over 130 delivered, it has proven its versatility from tactical resupply in Africa to aerial firefighting and helicopter refueling. Its future lies in adaptability, though scale remains a challenge. Unless more export materializes, it risks staying a niche player. So the question isn't which is better, but which version fits the 21st century battlefield? The American giant built for overwhelming lift or the European hybrid designed for flexibility? Perhaps the future needs both. Two very different versions of air power came from opposite sides of the Atlantic. The Lockheed C-5 Galaxy, America's Cold War giant, built to move armies in a single flight, and the Airbus A400M Atlas, Europe's agile, modern lifeline able to go where heavy jets cannot. So what do you think? Should the future of airlift lean toward America's giants or Europe's versatile workhorses? Which philosophy will truly define the next era of military transport? This is only the beginning. In our next video, we'll leave Earth's skies and follow China's Taiwan 2 mission, asteroid sampling and beyond. How is Beijing planning to challenge NASA and JAXA in deep space exploration? Make sure you're subscribed. The race for the skies may be fierce, but the race for the cosmos has already begun.